Welcome back to another episode of The First Team. I'm Joe DeLeone, joined by Ryan Roberts, and today we're going to be unveiling our safety rankings. This week, we're going to try and wrap up as many of our position group rankings as possible with week 0 right around the corner. Few games, get a little bit of taste of what football's like, and then we've got week 1 after that. Ryan, I got to say, getting into this safety group, I think the way that you described it to me before I started watching any of these guys was really well placed, if that makes sense. I think that there's 3 guys that I like. There's 2 that I really, really like. One that's going to be a good NFL player. And then I have so many question marks after that. I feel like
Okay.
there is so many inconsistencies once we move after that third guy.
There's a lot of size this year, which is cool.
Is it
There's a
good
lot of
size?
6'3", 6'4" guys, 6'5" guys, even in some cases. I don't know, man. Joe, I ended up watching 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 guys. And I watched, and yeah, I know.
Oh
I
my
watched 17
God, you
guys.
watched 17. I didn't even get anywhere close to that. Holy
I'm
crap,
sorry. Yeah.
man.
Well, I watched 17 guys, Joe, and I was like super hopeful at some points because I did find a couple guys that I'm like, cool, found a guy that I'm excited about a little bit.
Mhm.
But then after I look at the final work, I look at my round grades and my projections and my notes on guys and stuff, and I'm just like, man, it's just at best this is a fine safety class, but I actually think it's like slightly below average is kind of what I look at. I think there's a lot of names. I think there's a lot of possibilities, but I'm missing it, man. I'm just missing with the safety class. There's a couple guys I think saved it from being a bad safety class, but it's definitely not one that gets me super excited, honestly, right now.
I'm interested to get into it because there's one guy I was texting you about over the weekend who I really liked, and it sounded
Mhm.
like you didn't. So I want to know and I want to find out
Uh-huh.
your opinions on this class. I think we're going to be very different this week. I'm going to start us
Yes.
off with my number 5 guy. This is again not a very sexy list for some of these players, and it honestly was a lot of it was it required a lot of me to put some of these guys on this list. So I'm not super excited about some of these players. Number
Okay.
5, Latham Ransom from Ohio State. Again, not super excited about this player. I think he's got good
Interesting.
size.
Yeah.
I think that he has decent instincts. I think he's decently reactive. I wasn't super excited by his athleticism. I didn't see like a super rangy, explosive player. I think that if he had a little bit more burst, if he had a little bit more range, that he could have been higher up on this list. But I think for the instincts that he shows, he's a pretty good safety prospect. I just thought there were a lot of instances where there were gaps created between guys he was covering and not being able to do a ton to close down those gaps. Make sure you check out Bet Online for all of your sports betting needs. For anything that I do betting related, I go on over to betonline.ag and I use promo code BELIEVE50. BetOnline has all of the latest updated odds for the NFL and college football seasons. Anything you need, whether it's futures, live in-game betting, no matter what, your football betting needs are met at BetOnline. And again, make sure you use that promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50 to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.
Interesting, Joe. Should I tell you where Latham Ransom is on my
Yes,
list?
go
I
ahead.
guess I have Latham Ransom as my second ranked safety in this class.
Oh,
I had a third
wow.
round grade on Latham Ransom.
Wow.
I actually really like. I'm trying to pull up the play that I wanted to highlight actually on Twitter or X. Are we calling it X now? Is it X yet, or is
Yeah,
it still Twitter? I
I
don't
think
know.
it's fully X at this point.
Okay. Well, there is a play that Latham Ransom made last year where he was playing super shallow, playing almost like it looked like a robber coverage to a degree,
Mm-hmm.
but then it was against Michigan State, completely opened his hips, worked to the middle of the field, dead sprint, and made this incredible rangy interception against Michigan State. I actually think this kid's a good athlete. I think that Ohio State uses him horribly wrong, is what I truly think about Latham Ransom. Because this kid is 6 foot 211, verified this past offseason. He had third round grades from Blesto, like a late 3. I had a mid 3
Yeah.
on him because I think that he actually has a lot more upside athletically than what he is asked to do at Ohio State. Because there are some glimpses where I saw, and I'm like, that kid has better range than he's given credit for, and he has more range than what Ohio State allows him to do at times. So I think Latham Ransom is going to be one of the big risers in this safety group in 2024 because he was only a part-time starter, in 2022. We only
Yeah.
got a taste of him, and they asked him to be like a box player a lot. I'm just like, dude, I don't, because he's a good tackler. I think he's pretty physical. I think he's pretty consistent in that department. But I think that there's a lot more coverage upside to Latham than what he was asked to do for Ohio State in 2022. So I have him at number 2 because I had that tells you how much I don't love this class, though, is that I have a third
Yeah.
grade as my
Right.
second ranked safety in this class. So like it's not a great class, but I really like Latham. I think that he has more upside than what he was given opportunity for in 2022.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just didn't really catch that same level
Do you
of
feel,
athleticism. I think he's a good player, and
yeah,
I had a I had like like a 4 on him, like a late
that's
4
fine.
on him.
Oh, so
So like
we're
I'm
not
not
like crazy. I mean, we're talking about a 3 versus a 4. Like it's not like a crazy. Well, let me ask you this, Joe. Do you
yeah.
feel like any part of maybe the athleticism concerns were because of how Ohio State deployed him? Like, I mean, that's a general question. Like it's
I
hard
think
to
that
decipher that sometimes when they're only asking him to play in short space all the time. You know what I mean?
right, that does show up on tape. I understand what you're saying there
Yeah,
because there were a lot of instances talking about him trying to close down those gaps where, he has to open up and recover from a wide gap that's then
yeah,
been created by, a slot receiver.
exactly.
Um, but again, at the same time, I just didn't really see somebody who was just like super, super bursty. Again, I think he's a fine athlete. I didn't think he was a
Mhm.
bad athlete. I wrote him down.
Yeah,
I characterized him as a slightly above average athlete.
right.
I just didn't go as far as say that like I thought he was like super, super explosive.
You know what's crazy is like I'm looking at my list of the players I watched, Joe, and I would only say there's one player that I would say is a great athlete on this list. Like
Yeah.
there's just a lot of solid to good
Uh,
athletes, Like I didn't see a lot of great athletes. I really
okay.
did not.
We'll get to. I have 2 guys that I think fit that description, so we'll get to them in a
Yes.
second. Who's your number 5?
Number 5 for me was Bo Braid, who's out of Maryland. He was actually the top ranked safety from Blesto. I think he actually
Oh,
had. Let me look it up real quick. He had a second round grade, early 2 from Blesto. He is 5'11" and 7/8, so 6 foot, 201 pounds. Number 25, I believe he's changed his number to number 2 this offseason as well. Joe, this kid is incredibly explosive downhill, and he is a absolute tank of a tackler. Like he's the true alley runner. Like they want to get him super involved, run fit inside, work inside out, and he's incredibly physical football player, and he's twitchy, dude. Like he's a twitched up. Him out of his trigger is explosive as heck, and he actually closes ground pretty quickly. I just really didn't love the instincts on film from a coverage perspective, man. There were a lot of times, I think it's against Michigan. I think, yeah, it was against Michigan. It was like the first play of the game where he was literally like eye to eye with a tight end, and it was just working a play action, and he just got stuck in mud, man. I'm just like, he didn't
mm.
know what he was looking at on that particular play. And I just think the eyes are super inconsistent for Bo Braid, but I think he's got very good athleticism, and he has upside playing triggering downhill. I don't necessarily ever think he's going to be a free safety type to be rangy on the back end, but I think if you're talking about a field or a strong safety type that's going to rotate down a lot, match up against tight ends, be physical in the box, work the alley, I really like Bo Braid. I think that he's a late third round player to me right now because I think there's some limitations with the eye discipline and coverage instincts all the time. But athletically, I think that he could be a little bit of a riser as well. I like the athlete a lot for Bo Braid.
I didn't get to watch him. I have a really random side stupid comment.
Oh
Why did
no,
I feel like every single safety changed their number this offseason? Do you understand
did
how many
Mm.
they?
guys that because Rod Moore changed his number.
Mm.
Latham didn't change his number. Who else changed their number? I think Cam Kitchens did. James Williams did. There
Did
were
Andrew
so
Makuba? Makuba might have done it too for Clemson. I
yeah,
think he may have changed
but
his name. I could be wrong.
there were at least 4 guys that I was watching, and I'm like, where is this guy on film? And I'm like,
On the
wait a
roster.
minute. Yeah, now I got to
Yeah.
go to Google Images and check when was the last number that he wore. Is this from his freshman year? These guys
What
changed
what
numbers 4 times. It's
what
annoying.
number is James Williams wearing now? What number is he wearing?
I forgot. I'll
Number
pull it
one
up
or
in a
something,
second.
probably like something
Yeah.
super.
Well, he moved to like 20 and he was wearing something like kind of normal.
Yeah.
He switched to 20 and I think he was wearing 0, which was really confusing.
Oh,
But
oh,
he
you know
was
why, right?
one of
You
the
know
least
why?
hard people to find on tape though, because he's so freaking tall. Why did he change?
Oh, number 20. I mean, you think Miami safety number 20? Ed Reed, right? He's trying to be Ed Reed. Guarantee it.
Oh,
Guarantee
he's
it.
not Ed Reed. By the
He's
way,
not Ed Reed.
quick note before we continue. I think James Williams was one of the most underwhelming players that I've ever watched, with the expectation that he was going to
Seventh
be a
round
massive dude.
grade from me, sir. Seventh round grade. He
More
doesn't give me
generous than me,
anything
and
in
I
pass
hated him.
coverage, man. He doesn't give me anything. And his ankles in the run game are terrible. I mean, like, yeah, I agree with you. I was not impressed by Mr. Williams.
We won't waste our time on a guy who didn't make either of our lists,
No.
clearly. Number 4 for me, I was a fan of Rod Moore from Michigan. Not too much of a separation in the grades I had on Rod Moore and Ransom. By the way, Ransom, awesome name. I have to just throw that out there. I forgot to say that.
Latham
Um,
Ransom, yeah.
I think that they're very close. The difference here with Moore is that he's a leaner player. I think that it was more noticeable the long speed, the recovery speed that he had on film. The thing that bugged me with him is that I did see an explosive athlete. I saw a guy that could cover a lot of ground. I saw a guy that was decisive and willing to attack downhill. When he takes the right angles, he's a playmaker, but he is inconsistent with those angles. And I don't think it's like a case of a guy who has no idea how to play the position and is just taking really, really awkward approaches to either attacking a route or trying to come downhill on a ball carrier. I just think that he needs a little bit more time. And I don't know how long he's been playing as a full-time starter off the top of my head. I'm not going to BS that. But I wouldn't be surprised if Rod Moore isn't a guy who doesn't make some improvements and maybe gets drafted a little bit higher than I have him projected right now, which is as a 4th rounder.
Interesting. I actually did not watch Rob Moore, Joe.
Oh, I thought somebody didn't watch.
I watched the other Michigan safety, Page. Is it Macari Page is the other one? That's the one that I watched. I did not watch Rob Moore.
Did
So
he
I don't
make
have
your
anything
list?
to add about Mr. Moore.
Did Page make your list?
Page, no, he did not make my list. I
Who's your
didn't
number
hate
4?
him, though. But yeah, he didn't make my list. Number 4, a Big Ten player. Quick transition there. That a lot of people know. Tyler Nubin, who is a safety out of Minnesota. You didn't like him? You did like him.
No, this is the most annoying position group because depending on where you like went to find guys to watch, there is such a wide range of guys that even if I watched 17 guys, I'd be willing to bet that we wouldn't have watched 8 of the same guys. I'd be willing to bet that. Go ahead, continue. I cut you off.
Probably should have rattled off who exactly we watched before we started this.
No, because I do not want to get you flexing nuts on me on how many more guys you.
Man.
No, I don't want to feel insecure about how few guys I watch compared to you. But
Tyler Nubin, the guy that the NFL has liked for 2 years, was actually a surprise player to return this past season. Here's the caveat on Tyler Nubin, Joe. I'll rephrase again. I hated his 2021 film. Did not like it one little bit. Such a bad tackler in 2021. 2022 was better. He still has inconsistencies in the run game. I still see some missed tackles. I still see inconsistent angles. Still needs to improve, but it was worlds better than what it was in 2021. And 2022, I think he just continued to showcase his athleticism and his ability to be a pass coverage player. They play him in some like almost off-man responsibilities, some like match zone stuff. And I think he really changes direction well for a guy his size, man. He's 6'1" and 6'8", so he's 6'2", 208 pounds. He's got long levers, but he changes direction pretty well, and he's got good ball skills, right? So I like his ability as a coverage player. I think he could do some man stuff against some bigger slots. I think that he could also do some rangy stuff on the back end. I like him in pass coverage. Tyler Nubin is still a guy that's growing on me, though, because he needs to get better in the run game, man. Like, he's just not good enough in the run game right now. If he was good in the run game, if he was just good, baseline good, not great, but just good, he'd probably be number 2 on this list for me at worst.
Wow.
Like, I think that he's got that much coverage ability. The run game stuff just drives me nuts. Drives me nuts because it's just super inconsistent. But it was better. So it's trending in the right direction, at least for Tyler Nubin.
Yeah, I didn't get to him, but I've heard tremendous things about him. He was one of those guys when I was just like doing my preliminary research, putting together a list outside of the names you recommended to me. And you also recommended I watch him, and kicking myself a little bit, I opted to skip over him for the. Actually, I guess I don't, because I ended up opting to watch Moore and Ransom, and they made their way
We
onto my
are the good
list.
thing for the viewers today on this show, Joe, is that they are getting a lot of names, man. A lot of
Yes.
names today.
Yes.
Yes.
See,
Yeah.
for anyone who wants to be like, oh wow, these guys didn't watch as the same guys, the conversation's not as good. But I would argue it's better
It's better.
to have more names thrown out there that we didn't get to the same guys.
Aren't people tuning into this show to learn about prospects, right? I mean, like, you're
Who
getting so
knows?
many different names to learn about.
Sometimes I think they're just tuning in to get mad at us, but you know what it
Yes,
is.
sure.
My number 3, guy that I was pleasantly surprised by, I started watching early, and I think that he's very different from all the other players we've talked about, and that's being the fact that he's just a big-bodied, strong safety, box safety. I'm talking about Cole Bishop from Utah, 6'2", 207. I think that this is a Marte Mapu, Jeremy Chin role type player. I don't think that he has the upside of Jeremy Chin, because Jeremy Chin is just an unbelievable athlete. But I see that a lot of teams are willing somewhere late day 2, early day 3 to draft this specific role type player where it's a big body safety that can cover tight ends, that can cover slot receivers, big slots, most importantly. And they have the frame at 6'2", 207 that he is excellent against the run. He is a really, really good run defender. I don't think he is, again, another guy that's not like a super crazy explosive, rangy athlete. You're never going to ask him to cover massive amounts of ground. But I thought his hips were pretty good for a player of his size, that he's not a liability in coverage. He does a strong job. Doesn't have a ton of length that he's not going to come up and make plays on the football. He's not going to disrupt the catch point consistently. But what stood out to me is that ability to be dominant in the run, to be decisive against the run, to attack downhill. You can blitz him a little bit. This is the modern style sub package safety that you need on your team. You're not going to draft him in the first round because he is role specific, but he is what a lot of teams, I think, we talk about all the time. These guys are the NFL mold. Every team wants to have this guy that they can turn to on sub packages for specific downs. Cole Bishop's that guy for me.
Man, we have another guy that so he was.
I told you about him. You should have watched him.
No, I watched him. I watched Cole Bishop months ago. He's safety 7 for me. I like Cole Bishop a lot. He just missed the list for me. I agree with a lot. Marte Mapu, I think, is actually a really good comp for him, because he's going to be a big nickel, spend a lot of time on the second level of a defense. He's not a true every down safety that's going to play from depth. Like, he's not going to do that type of stuff. But as a special teamer, as a guy that can play on the second level, as a guy that can play some big nickel, good player, man. I mean, the one thing about him, Joe, is I think he's incredibly smooth. I think he's instinctual. And the one thing that you always know about Utah players, because he is coached by Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley, is that he knows how to play the position. And he's got really good instincts. He's got really good eyes, and he's going to be consistent. So I liked Cole, man. He was close to making my list. Just missed out of my top 5, though. Just missed out.
All right, you're number 3? Yes.
Kendall Daniels, safety out of Oklahoma State, is a player that I am stupid high on, Joe. I think this is one of the guys that's going to be the big riser, man. Like, I really think that this kid is that type of dude. He is listed at 6'4", 200 pounds. He's one of these ultra, like, jumbo size safeties. Was a red shirt in 2021, started every game last year in 2022. This kid is about as twitched up and as explosive downhill as you're going to find in college football. Like, this kid is twitchy, dude. Really fast, explosive. He comes downhill with a vengeance. And despite him being like a little bit skinny, he's got some really nice play strength, man. He can work through contact. And I think he's got pretty good instincts in pass coverage as well, man. Like, there's some instinctual stuff as far as robbing zones underneath, being able to fall on hook and curl. Like, this is, again, one of those strong safety types that you want to rotate down more than rotate to the middle of the field as a true free. But, man, I think that he is physical. I think he's explosive, and I love his impact in short zones in the run game, man. Kendall Daniels, Oklahoma State, former, like, top 50 recruit as well, man. He's a good football player.
You annoy me so much because you were
Why?
texting me and you're like,
Yeah,
I found a guy that I really like. And
yeah.
I asked, you wouldn't tell me. You're like, oh, I don't want to spoil it for the show. And I know
Couldn't
that
think in
I
time.
play that bit on you all the time, but I love 6'4" safeties, man.
You would
I
have
wish
watched
I
him
watched
anyway,
them.
man. Did you watch Yam Banks? Did you watch him? I told you
I
to
didn't
watch
like
Yam. Did you watch him?
I
Of
thought
course you
Yemex
did.
was
Of
fine.
course you
No,
did.
I did watch him.
You didn't like him?
I thought he was fine. I thought he was
Oh,
slow. I
slow.
I watched I watched him way too many times. See, this is one that I knew that you and I weren't going to agree on, and I'm
Uh-huh.
glad that he didn't make either of our lists. But here we are, still
Yeah.
talking about him. There were so many times where he like receivers just blew past him, and then they'd be coming within a yard of him, and then he chose to open up too late, and then he didn't have the speed to recover. But nobody ever threw to those guys, so like he was never a
Oh
liability.
man.
I don't know. I saw
Man.
a lot of problems on
Bad
film.
takes today by Joseph, man.
Well,
Yib's the player, man.
here's my take that's going to piss you off. Calen
Oh
Bullock
no.
is my number 2 safety.
Oh,
I really, really liked Calen Bullock. Is he going to be a really good tackler? Probably not. Is he
never.
physical? Probably not. Is he
No.
6'3", 190 pounds with incredibly ridiculous range and good ball skills?
Yeah,
Absolutely. I
sure,
think
man.
that Calen Bullock, and it pains me to pick a USC guy and put him this high, but I just think that the range that he can play with, the ability to cover so much ground at this size, it's scary. I'm not going to ask of him to be a headhunter. You know, he's not going to be a really, really big time tackler. But to see his ability to track the football in the air and the ability to close down on that speed, and like we're talking about recovery speed a lot today, my man has that recovery speed. I was obsessed with the way he moves. I know that it's a concern, the lack of physicality, but I'm wondering, how can we remedy that? Maybe he improves and his stock goes up. But I had an early second on him.
Safety 9 for me, Calen Bullock. I love
Oh
athleticism, Joe.
no.
I love it, man. He's Joe. Remember when I said there's one great athlete on this list? Do you remember I said that? Do you remember I said that?
That was
Yes.
him? Oh,
Oh,
not Cam
Calen Bullock's the
Kitchens?
best athlete on this list by far. By far.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Joe, he can't tackle. He can't tackle. He can't
He's a
tackle.
safety. He doesn't need to.
Oh my gosh.
Kickers
But not
tackle
only can
more
he
than
not
safeties.
tackle, not only can he not tackle, he doesn't even try to tackle. He doesn't even try. He is one of the worst tacklers I've ever seen in my life. And there's some times where
He
there's
makes
a
good
catch
business
point
decisions.
opportunity. There's a catch point opportunity, and he chooses not to be physical. What is this kid doing? No.
But his
I'm out.
production, despite that, is still very good.
Joe, he's like, do you remember Gerard Holloman that came out of Louisville a few years ago? And he's a much better athlete than Gerard Holloman, so I'm not going there. But Gerard Holloman was a really good coverage player, had great ball skills. Everything was great until he had to hit someone, and then it completely deteriorated, man. Like, he doesn't want to play physical at all.
I don't know why, but the description kind of made me think of Grant Delpit. Is that off base?
Delpit was
Like,
inconsistent in the run game, but there was effort a lot of times. But I
yeah,
mean, to a degree, I can see
but
where you're going
tall,
with that.
rangy ball skills. Yeah,
I
you
can
can
see
kind
that. I can see that.
of. Okay, you gave your number 2.
Yes.
We both know who our number 1 is, dude. I got to be completely honest. So I first started watching these guys. I started with Williams, then I went Bishop, uh, Kitchens, Kinchens. I think it's Kinchens, not Kitchens. Kinchens, and
Kinchens.
then Bullock. And I watched those 3 guys, and I was like, wow, the safety class actually might be pretty good. Like, there's some 3 guys that I really like, and then it just like fell off a complete cliff after everybody I watched after that. But dude, I really like Cam Kinchens. I went as far as to I gave him a late first, dude. I really,
What?
really like him.
Oh,
Dude,
okay.
he is a great athlete. He's
Yes.
not too far off from
I would
Bullock,
say
in
great
my
athlete.
opinion.
He's a good athlete. He's a good
Okay.
athlete. I would say he's very instinctual. Yes.
But right, that's the perfect description. He's a
Yep.
good athlete that is supported by phenomenal instincts. I think
Agreed.
that he takes really good angles. I think that he is supportive in the run game. This is a ball hawking free safety that I think is going to be highly successful at the next level. And it's very rare. This didn't happen for any other guys. I got to see Calen Bullock pick off a Cam Rising, I think it was. But dude, both games I watched of him, he had 2 just crazy interceptions. Not like
Yeah.
crazy catch, but just read the play really well, went and made a play, picked the ball off. I think those instincts are phenomenal, and he's going to be a really productive player at the next level.
He is the true free safety in this class. Like, he is incredibly smooth in his pedal, man. He can open up. He's got really good hips, really good change of direction, working from depth. Like, they play him single high free safety a ton, and I love that work. He's got really good ball skills, really good range, good instincts, being able to jump passing windows. I don't love him in the run game, which is why I ended up giving him a second. I think that there's moments, but I think he's more of a wrap up tackler, wrap and drag type of tackler. I don't think he's got a ton of play strength. Like, he reminds me of Jesse Bates a lot, which Jesse Bates is a really good free safety. So cool,
Right.
but very inconsistent in the run game is kind of where I am with Cam Kinchens. But in the passing game, that kid is incredibly smooth, really good range. He's the true free safety in this class. So I like Cam a lot.
Oh, there it is. There are our safety rankings. We're going to do receivers later on this week, so stay tuned for that. At Joe DeLeone, at Rise and Draft. We'll be back with more.